Anybody else coming through right quick? No. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Are we recording? Wonderful. Well, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Yeah, it's Thursday. Actually, happy 1st of July. Today is the first day of the month of July. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, we are going to talk about cybersecurity for small businesses. And I think this is very timely and very, hopefully timeless, but very timely for business owners, especially right now. So that's why we're talking about that today, because I do not want us as small business owners and even solopreneur individuals to get into that mindset that only big companies experience major data breaches, because that would be a misconception. So that is our topic today. And we have a veteran here in IT. And some of you may recognize him from television. He was naked and fearless, but on the TV show called Naked and Afraid, which I never saw, but I do know it was a very popular show. But he is here today representing his company, uh, Lightworks, right? And that. So we're going to talk with Mr. Wes Harper today about cybersecurity for small businesses. We're also going to talk about what to do should, your company experience some sort of data breach and things of that nature. So in all honesty, when we end this, I'm hoping that, you'll feel more comfortable, you'll feel empowered, so that if something should happen, you'll know what to do next, or better yet, you'll just call Wes. you just you'll just call his company, and they can walk you through whatever your next steps need to be. Now, before we hear from Wes, we're going to hear from Nick. Now, Nick is the Microsoft Hub training manager for the Raleigh-Durham area. So take it away, Nick.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and hello, everybody. I believe I've met about half of you in the past, maybe more than half, but nice to meet you if I haven't met you. My name is Nick, and currently I am operating out of the Raleigh-Durham hub. Basically, it's going to be very soon, it's going to be in that there's going to a big building in RTP that we're actually building and finishing right now, so I'll be based out of there when we go back to physical work locations. So that being said, in our hub, we basically just a little bit of a quick history on what I've done with Microsoft. Is I've been with Microsoft for about nine and a half years now with the retail space. And right when the pandemic happened, basically we went to from a retail organization, retail store, to more of like a hybrid business sales and teaching model. So right now, our hub, in my specific section, our hub, what we offer is what we call customer success training, or CSTs, where basically we will teach you on various subjects. And this is um, we can teach many different companies in many sizes, enterprise level, on different subjects. You know, if you need to get caught up on Teams, if you need to get caught up on different Office applications, we have different CST programs that are essentially like an hour-long training program that are free to use, which is great. So I know that various companies and various partners offer their own teaching solutions. This can really complement that as well, which is great. You can use it as a standalone or complement. And yeah, it's absolutely great because we can not only, because we're using it, we're teaching it through Teams, we can actually impact people outside of the Raleigh-Durham area. So if you have people that you know that would need that on, like in England or on the West Coast, we can impact them as well. So yeah, that being said, I will drop a quick link, just a little promotion link. We do one-on-one trainings for individual companies, but we also have an awesome centralized calendar that are basically trainings open to anybody. Anybody can go in and register, and they're free to take at your leisure. July, we have our calendar pretty much filled out, but August and September, I'm actually going to be adding to that calendar, hopefully by the beginning of next week. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Let me know if you have anything you would like to work on, whether it's in training or otherwise, I'd love to help support you. So thank you again, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Thank you. Now, before we hear from Wes, let me give you some highlights from his bio. So I told you he was technically gifted, I guess is one way to put it. He is the owner and president of Lightwire Incorporated. It's an IT services company, commonly referred to as a MSP, which is Managed Service Provider. That was, thank you. I always wondered what that meant. Okay, they provide IT support to small and medium sized businesses across the Triangle and throughout the US. The company was started in 1996 and has grown to employ 14 engineers and a small admin sales staff. He is married with 5 grown children. Yay. He has a passion for all things outdoors and is also a recurring cast member, as I said before, on the Disney Channel show Naked and Afraid. So, everybody give a warm welcome to Wes.
Hello, everyone. Thanks very much. I really appreciate you asking me to talk. And I think just to give you just a slight more background, in 1996, when I started the company, I did not have a cell phone. And I think email was just beginning to be a thing. I mean, that's how much things have evolved in the last 25 years. I didn't get a cell phone until the second year after I started the company because it wasn't quite necessary then. And it was new and it was a flip phone and it was horrible. And that's what we did back then. In 2000, I took on a business partner and we started growing the company. We had been a phone company and then grew into the data side of things. And one client at a time, one employee at a time, we slowly grew our company. We were a break fix company, which meant that we were unemployed until someone called us and had a problem. And then we'd go out and we'd fix it and we'd charge them. So every day we came to work that we didn't have a schedule, we really didn't have a job. And so a number of years ago, probably 8 years now, Carson Hagan came on board. And between the two of us, we decided that we wanted to change the tempo of the company. I had kids that were about to start college and I had no money to send them because I was always unemployed until something broke. So we decided to become a MSP, managed service provider with monthly reoccurring revenue. We charge flat rates and people pay us every month so that they don't have problems. And we fix them on the fly remotely. We do proactive support so they just go to work and take care of their business and don't have to be an IT person on the side. We all know that a lot of that defaults to the office manager or the owner of the company, and that's the last thing they want to do is to get their computer to print to the printer or troubleshoot somebody who can't get their email. So that's kind of the premise for things. Yes, I have made some television appearances, on Discovery, Naked and Afraid, and I would be remiss if I didn't tell you I use that every day as a platform to get more business, to get some attention, to get my face out there. And so it is not an accident that I talk about that a lot. Mm-hmm. And, my wife is actually on here now, tuning in. And so, it's a common subject in our house, sometimes good, sometimes bad. So to just dig in, we're going to keep it very topical today. And if you have technical questions, Carson is here at the end to answer them. And, and Nick can probably jump in too at any point. Both of them are way more technical than I will ever be. So right now, the news is covered with it. We've had the Colonial Pipeline debacle. We've had Mecklenburg County get hacked, Orange County get hacked, Walmart's getting hacked. I mean, every day that you turn on the news, you see somebody is having some kind of data breach. And these are big companies, like Alice talked about. These are big companies that we're hearing about. Okay, and they're not what we do for a living. We're in the small to medium-sized business range. And so a lot of people say, well, because we're in that range, we're pretty safe. And the real answer is no, you're not safe. Um, you're really not. Security by obscurity is what a lot of people choose to go with. They say we're too small, nobody's going to bother us, and really that's not true. There's in my mind there's basically two things that the bad guys are looking for. They're either trying to hold your data hostage for money, Bitcoin, or cash in a bag that you trade to some teenager at a McDonald's. That's a real thing. You'll see stories about that. So they hold your data hostage, or they steal your information and sell it out on the black market, dark web, almost as a broker. They don't really care about your information. They just know that if they have a certain amount of it, they can sell it to somebody who wants it on the dark web to use for whatever purposes they might want to use it for. Social security numbers, maybe you got credit cards, maybe you got health records, whatever the case. They just want to have a batch of data that they can sell off for whatever they can get for it. And that is kind of scary. And I think Alice was alluding to before, or no, Ed was alluding that you can go on a website and see, and you go, oh man, my email is on the dark web. Okay, it's out there. So if you retain any data with your company, you're generally at risk. And the cost to protect yourself of that risk, I mean, I don't want to say it's insurance, but you can liken it to insurance. But if you think about on the other side, what it's going to cost you if you do get a breach, I made a list of some things it could cost you. It's going to cost you some money, right? It might cost you your business. It may cost you your kid's college fund, maybe your house. And you know, if your spouse has been yelling at you to be more secure, you know, your spouse may kick it once you realize that you just lost your house. There's a lot of secret activity going on. It's a very common practice. So what at Lightwire, I'm going to talk about a few services, basically layers of security. Now, this is not a pitch to come over and sign up with Lightwire. It's just giving you information. Yes, do we take care of all these things? Of course we do. You know, we're a full service IT company, so yes, but that's not really the purpose other than just giving you some information right now. So let's start off at the network level. And when I talk about that, we're really talking about having a good firewall in place. Small, medium-sized businesses have a good firewall in place. And I hate this analogy, but it makes sense to people. Instead of having a screen door on the front of your house, you have a steel door. That's a very common analogy and it drives me nuts, but it's pretty true. And your steel door has a mail slot. So some things can pass back and forth. Other things cannot. Occasionally you open the steel door to let bigger things in. And you can let bigger things out. It's a good way to prevent a lot of things. Like you've heard of denial of a service attacks where people are pinging you constantly trying to find an open port to get in. That happens all day long. It can stop network traffic from geographical areas that are known for cyber terrorism. So let's just pick, you know, some Ikistan out, out Western Europe, and it's blocking that because it's known for nefarious activities. And so those kinds of things, this device will take care of. It also provides some gateway antivirus and anti-malware protection. So it screens data that's coming through your mail slot. And if it sees something odd or bad code, it kicks it out. It does not let it come through. A lot of people will take that information and say, dang, I need to go to Staples and I need to buy a firewall or a Best Buy. And you can get them for $60 down there at Staples, you know, right off the shelf. No problem. And you think, okay, well, we're good to go now because I got the firewall, Wes said. Well, here's the problem with that. If you are not constantly updating your firewall, you're not doing security patches, you're not upgrading firmware, then the firewall you bought 6 months ago is now a dead piece of equipment. It's not doing anything for you because the hackers are that much smarter in the last 6 months. Okay, I hope if that makes sense to you. You have a firewall and it's at the peak of its technology, and the manufacturer and engineering geeks like us, we only know about a problem is when a hacker gets smart and finds a way in. And then they develop a solution for that and they block that. And then the smart hacker or somewhere else, he finds a way in through some different means. They get smarter and block that. So it's almost a reactive state of the manufacturers and engineers of firewalls to react to attacks and keep improving their product. So if you buy the Best Buy Staples firewall and don't have anybody maintaining it, you're missing out on those fixes that are constantly happening. Okay, that happens. So it's very important to have a firewall managed by somebody. And I'll be honest, it is too complicated for most business owners to take care of. It is something that a professional needs to look at. They need to monitor it. They maintain it. And when those updates come out, they do updates and patching. It's very important to have that firewall monitored and maintained. What we do is we monitor every piece of data that comes in or out of the business. Okay, we don't care what anybody's looking at. We don't care what websites they go to. That's not our business. We're looking for zeros and ones. We want to see malicious code come through, and then we toss that out. So that's what we do for firewalls. That, if anything else, that is a must-have for a business. Just to give you an idea of expense, we do firewall as a service for $125 a month. There is no equipment charge. If it's end of life, if SonicWall says this product is going to be dead in December, we replace it at no charge. We do all the security, all the updates, all the patching, and there are a lot of MSPs like us who do the exact same thing. But it's important to have those kinds of levels of service when it comes to firewall. All right. Let's take, for example, Charlottesville, Orange County, whatever it was. They got hacked maybe 2 years ago and did not have an appropriate backup. Their entire downtime, financial fiasco could have been prevented if they had a good quality image-based backup. They could have given the middle finger to the hackers, reformatted all their systems, and restored from backup, and they would have been back in business in 24, 48 hours with minimal cost, minimal downtime, but they did not have that. Okay, so I want to talk about backups for just a minute. There are two types in general, two types. You can have a file and folder backup, and that's one that just backs up your files, okay, your Word documents, okay, your Excel documents. Let's stay on that for a minute. And so it'll back up all those things. You can have it back up every night. You can have it back up incrementally, whatever the case. Now, let's say you have a breach. You can have your laptop PC reformatted so it's blank, and then you're going to have to download those files back to get them back. Well, with file and folder backup, you don't have any of your programs anymore. Okay, so you don't have your Office suites. So you have to reload your Office suites, and then you download the files back to it. Okay, now it's acceptable, but it's a lengthy process. If your business can't be without their files for a week to 2 weeks, then you might want to consider something a little bit better. There's a big difference between free service and paid service. Image-based backup is what we recommend for our clients. And that is a backup. I'll describe the process. We put a network appliance on site. And so your server or your machines replicate over to this network appliance, and then that replicates to the cloud. And so if you have a ransomware attack, you shut it off, format, restore from your network appliance, and you have all of your programs, all of your files, all your data, it all comes over, you start working again. If you have a disaster and you have a flood or a fire, which we have seen two major ones in the last 3 years, maybe, where it was a complete disaster, no equipment left. Well, it's replicated to the cloud. So from that situation, we put information on a hard drive out of our cloud, pop it in a new machine, and you get back to work. Is it more complicated than that? Yes, it is a lot more complicated than that. But to really bring it down, that's what happens. And you don't miss work. And that's a very quick process. That's 24, 48 hours, you're back in business from a total disaster. I don't know if you all remember when the Quorum building caught fire downtown. We had a very high profile client in there that we'd only had for 2 weeks. But the first thing we always do is insist on a full image-based backup. And fortunately, we had just got that done about 2 days before the fire. Within, I think, 24 hours of their building being on fire and flooded and a total loss, they were camped out at the Holiday Inn right down the road, and they were back to working. Was it a little bit of a hassle for them? Yeah, because they were using their kids' laptops. They were using a machine they just ran out and bought. I mean, they were using anything they could find, but they had all their data and they were back at work. And so that's image-based backup. It's for those ransomware attacks. It's for disasters, and it'll keep your business going. A little more expensive, sure, but totally worth it if you can't sleep at night thinking your data might be lost. So that's I'll let that go with backup. I think that's pretty decent on that one. The third thing that I think we should talk about is at the user level, because that is really where businesses are most vulnerable. You can have really some high profile, expensive security, and if Betty Joe opens an email that has malicious code in it, you're in trouble. You know, or somebody takes a laptop home and uses it from their unsecured network and clicks on phishing email, you're in trouble. So really the user level is the most problematic and the most at risk for your business. So basically you are your biggest problem with security. And that's kind of how it is. Your employees are the biggest problems. So that's why we recommend everybody needs antivirus. I mean, that's just, you have to have it. If you don't have an antivirus, they destroy files. Okay, antivirus keeps your files from being absolutely destroyed and your machine ruined. We recommend a cloud-based antivirus such as WebRoot. That's a really good one. It's out in the cloud, so if their new virus comes out of Japan, they figure out how to block it or destroy it, whatever they do, it updates to the cloud. And then in Raleigh, North Carolina, we get those definitions so that we're not going to be under attack from that virus. It is really fantastic. The days of loading a disk onto your machine are over. That's just, those are gone. We all remember them. We remember throwing Norton in a machine and it slowing down our computer, bogging it down, and then having to update it manually every month. And then it's a hope and a poke whether you're going to be safe. And it is pretty expensive too. Anti-malware is huge. We use Hitman Pro. Malware is the stuff where, you look up a gas grill at Home Depot, and for the next 3 weeks, you're getting solicited for gas grills, and you open your cell phone and there's gas grills on your screen lock. I mean, that's kind of it's a simplified way to put it. But malware opens ports in your machine or your firewall. It opens ports and sends your information out so you can be marketed at. It does a lot of other very bad stuff and can overwhelm your computer. We see people who don't take care of their malware immediately, and that's all they got on their machine. And it's a mess. They can't even work anymore. So we recommend a very good anti-malware program and then scans every single day. If you get a piece of malware and you can remediate it, then it won't lead to more malware. So that's very important. I think malware is just about taking over antivirus. It is such a plaguing problem for businesses that it's a real pain. Let's see, a couple. I'm not getting to all the chats. I'm sorry. Somebody said something about Apple products. Contrary to popular belief, yeah, you can get viruses on your Macs. Absolutely, you can. We see it all the time. Let's see. A couple things that you can just ask yourself with regards to your own personal security and vulnerability. Do you take your laptop home at night? Do you use it in the office? Do you take it to multiple places? Do you go to Starbucks? And do you connect to their Wi-Fi? Do you have kids that you let use your laptop? Do they do schoolwork on it? Do they go to their sites that you don't really know? Do you have multiple email accounts? You have a nice work email that's really rock solid, and then you have a Gmail account or an old Yahoo account kicking in the corner? Okay, that can create you a problem. Unsecured networks. I don't think Carson, our CIO, would ever go to a Starbucks and use their free Wi-Fi. That would never happen. It's things like that that can let the bad guys in, that can really mess you up. And then once you have it on your laptop, you go back to the work environment, and all of a sudden you're creating a problem for every other employee and the business owner and the business itself at that point. Okay, so those are things that we like to address in security awareness training. And that's something that Nick touched on when he talked a little bit, but we do offer security awareness training, and it teaches you stuff. It teaches you not to click on the email that says view your invoice. It teaches you not to open an email that is misspelled or has a logo that looks a little different than what you're used to seeing, or the reply address for a business is a Gmail account. You know, things of that nature is what security awareness training teaches you. We have many customers that will take the security awareness training, which is it's a video, you know, you do it at your own pace type thing, and it's very inexpensive. And then it has a test at the end, and it's nice to you. It doesn't blast you for missing questions, but it teaches you the answers. And so you're a little more educated. And then it has monthly periodic updates where it'll check in on you. You can refer to it at any time. And mostly, if you're a business owner, this is something that you want your employees to take, because you sure hate to have a $15 an hour employee take down your business because they are unaware of some very simple things that will keep them safe. Let me see. I think, you know, IT is like selling insurance. It's a little boring. And so why don't I kind of stop there, and maybe Carson and I can take a few questions, if that sounds fair. Carson, you've probably been monitoring the chat a little more than I've been able to, because I've been rattling on. Do you see any chats that might need to be addressed?
I went ahead and answered a few in the chat, but if anyone has any more, please bring those questions up now. We'd be happy to talk about it.
I have a question, and this goes back to the Apple Mac situation, because the general perception is that because I have a Mac computer, they're not as the word I like, ubiquitous, not as widespread used Well, that used to be the case. So we as Mac users, we get really, really comfortable in buying our Mac. We don't put any antiviral. I've had Macs for over a decade now, and I have never used any antiviral malware, software, anything on it. So could you delve a little further into why Mac users should not get well, first, how did this perception begin? What is it about Macs that lead people to thinking, well, Macs, are not so susceptible to virus and things of that nature? So answer that first, and then what we should be doing as Mac users versus PC, if anything.
Sure. So you're right. There is a misconception that, Apple products, Mac products are not susceptible to viruses. Well, originally back in the day, early 90s, when viruses were first starting to be created and people were really becoming aware of what they were, a lot of machines were really Windows based. So they were kind of targeting Windows based environments. Like hackers, they like to do a shotgun effect. Let's shoot out a bunch of things and hope we land on a few. Well, the Macs really they weren't geared towards the viruses. So that's kind of why back in the day, a lot of people thought, hey, I have a Mac, I'm not susceptible, I'm safe. And so that's kind of where that came from. But these days, just speaking from experience, we've seen plenty of Apple devices, Mac devices get malware, antivirus. They're susceptible just like anything else. Some of the more clever ways that Mac devices become infected is through email. Attachments, malicious attachments being sent around, things like that. That's a good platform to get malware onto a Mac, as opposed to some of the other more traditional virus sort of platforms.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions. The first one is just kind of a curiosity question. Wes, you mentioned that when you look for this malware and viruses, things that you're just looking at 0 ones. I mean, is there a pattern? I mean, I know that's just that's very technical, but I'm just kind of curious as to these viruses out here. Do they typically have a set of bits and bytes that you look for in order to figure out if it's virus or it's real data? And the other couple of questions I have is using Dropbox for backup. Have you seen problems with that? And then for like the Starbucks things, I'm a financial advisor, which I have to protect my clients' data. One of the things I try to do if I go to a hotel or Starbucks, I typically use my hotspot on my phone, but I don't know if that's any better. So those are my questions.
Well, I'll start and then I'll let Carson jump in on the technical stuff. Zeros and ones, there's malicious code that has signatures. Okay. And it's not Carson and Wes and a million engineers who are looking at that. It is the actual device now that is sifting through that code. And when it spots a pattern of malicious code or an identified, malicious code, then it weeds it out.
Okay. That gets updated as you were talking about, as you find different, as hackers find different ways. Okay.
Yes, as they identify those types of codes, then it gets weeded out and everything gets updated. Yes, sir. That's exactly right.
Yeah, like Wes said, there's detectable signatures that these viruses and malware all have in them. And it's funny, it's because hackers are lazy. They don't want to make their own code. They're going to copy and steal someone else's malware. And then they're going to add their little 2 cents to it, and someone else is going to get that. So there's portions of malicious code that are detectable and can be identified with a signature. Yeah.
Gotcha. Just curious about that one. But the Dropbox and hotspot is more of I'd really like to hear the answer to those.
Yeah. So I'll be 100% honest with you. I know a lot of people that use Dropbox. I know a lot of businesses that use Dropbox, personal people, my mom, my sister, everyone. It's a great platform for housing data. Now, I just want to point out, Dropbox is not a backup service. It is a file sharing service, a cloud-based file sharing service. Yes, you can store things there and it can act like a backup, but I would never rely on that product being housing my mission critical data as a backup. I would just prefer a solution that is tailored towards that, a solution that has a backup that includes antivirus. So it can scan your backups and make sure they're okay. It can monitor your backups. It can test your backups, because what good is a backup if you've never tested it, right? It's worthless. You need to make sure you know your backups are working. So that's kind of my 2 cents on Dropbox. And maybe Nick has, I'm sure people use OneDrive in a similar sense, and I'm sure he has some stuff to say about that. Nick, if you want to jump in.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, no, they're like you said, to kind of build off of what you said was you know, products like Dropbox and OneDrive for Business and whatnot, they have their own layers of security, some better than others. But that being said, it's kind of one type of file syncing service that allows you to duplicate files and whatnot. And it's a good layer. It's not a bad thing to have, but it's definitely, like Carson said, definitely want to think about more of a holistic approach where you can have multiple types of backups, where like your day-to-day, cool, I'm syncing my files, I've got this kind of daily backup, but then when you go to actually make a mission critical based, backup in case catastrophe happens, you want to have a different layer that you can rely on. Absolutely.
And if I can jump right back in for 1 second, Carson said something that I don't want it to be understated. A lot of people say they have backups. We hear that all the time. Oh, our data is being backed up. And we ask our clients, when's the last time you had a restore point? When's the last time you've restored from backup? And they go, oh, I don't know, but I get an email that says it's backed up. Well, that's great. That's a nice email you get. But until you restore from backup, you don't really know. Okay, I think that a lot of people get that email and that helps them sleep at night. But in the background, there's this lingering doubt about whether it's really backed up that people choose to ignore. With our clients, we have a mandatory 30 days restore point for anybody that we back up. And every 30 days, we do a restore and a screenshot, and we send it to our clients. So they go, okay, I've got all my data. They said it was backed up, and here's the proof that it really is backed up. And that makes for some really good sleeping at night. And I'll turn it back over to Carson for the.
Yeah. So, and to your last question, sort of using public Wi-Fi, Starbucks, for example, versus using a hotspot. So in that scenario, you're kind of talking about connecting to two very different networks, right? We have Starbucks, that's a very public place. A lot of people are connecting with their iPad, their iPhone, their Android, their laptop, their Surface Pro, whatever it may be, and a lot of people are using that network. Well, you're visible on that network. You're there with everyone else. Now compare that to using a hotspot where you're creating your own network. That is your own little network that you've created that is safe and secure, and that you're the only person who has access to it, because you're the only one that has the PIN or the code, the password to get into it. That's going to help protect you and yourself and your data and online browsing. Staying within your own network, you're isolating yourself from everything else.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Carson, Marlena just chatted if there's a way that an individual can just check their machine to see if they've been affected by malware or viruses. Would you speak to that for a second?
Yeah, there's Depending on what type of computer you have. So if you have, I'll just assume you have a Windows computer. There, no
No.
Windows computer.
Not
Yes,
Marlene.
not Marlena.
She's definitely a Mac.
Okay, so
Talk to
that's
both.
okay.
Talk to both of them because I have
Sure.
both Mac and Windows.
Yeah, so I'll start with Windows. Just a quick go-to if you want to know if your machine's got any problem, any malware, anything. Um, Nick mentioned earlier, Windows Defender, which is built into Windows, is actually a great tool to use. So you can just do a quick scan, let it go through your computer, and it will find out if there's anything going on. That's Windows Defender. When it comes to Mac, it's a little bit more on the trickier side, and you're going to have to download probably a free scanning tool. So I would suggest maybe Sophos antivirus for Mac. Malwarebytes has a Mac-based scanner as well. Those are the two kind of go-to that I use to quickly find out if a machine is compromised.
I have a general question about websites. We've talked a lot about the internet, but in many cases, a lot of this might just happen, especially for small businesses at the website level. I'm somewhat savvy with WordPress. I don't know about the Joomlas and the Drupals and all of those. So when we are building these websites, is it the template level or is it the hosting level? Like, is it the GoDaddy level, the Bluehost level that we need to be worried about as far as these viruses coming in? And it appears there's always that one page on your website, that contact page, where you get the most crazy emails that might just have that link you were talking about that's going to, put a virus on your website. So could you speak to that level of things? Because like I said, I think for a lot of small businesses, if you're using Wix or whatever, some of these other do-it-yourself website creators, I think we're opening ourselves up to a whole lot of drama just because we don't know. We just want to get the website up.
Yeah, that's a great point. Those are things that small business owners are a lot more familiar with and touch and use and things. And so when it comes to hosting websites and things like Squarespace or WordPress, sites like that, when you work with a third-party vendor, they're going to be the ones responsible for protecting your data, for housing your data, for protecting that traffic, securing that traffic that's coming to your website because it's in their cloud. So any traffic coming in, it's going to go through their security measures and everything to protect your website. Now, things like hosting platforms like WordPress and Squarespace, they have some built-in malware antivirus tools that you can use at that level, at the website level, not the hosting level. Well, I should say not the hosting level, the website level. There's some items there that I would suggest you take a look at or get in touch with WordPress and just let them know, hey, I want to, beef up a little security on my website. I just want to make sure I'm doing everything I can, and they'd be happy to help you get those little modules and items configured for you. So that's to the website. And remind me, the second question was?
Those were the two.
Okay.
You come from as the creative. Do you come from the creative level, or are you coming from the hosting level? And the contact page for me is always the problem, because you got 5-page websites. That's like the standard, and one of those pages is always going to be contact us.
Yeah.
And so that's going to lead to your usual email address. But it seems it's that contact us or contact me page where in the most crazy, typically somewhere, no diss to Russians, uh, Been there, loved it, got the t-shirt literally. But at the end of the day, when we start talking about building these pages and building these websites, that contact page, because it's just wide open, it's our front facing. Usually it's where we do want you to, to leave a website, and we want people to contact us. But despite all your efforts using whatever template you're using, especially if you're using WordPress, that seems to be the entryway in many cases for malware and for those emails to come through, that you're scared to click on it, because they use the right words to be like, oh, I gotta open this because, and then you realize it's something crazy. Or sometimes though it looks valid because it has got a logo, the wording is right, and you click on it and then your whole life ends. Online, that is. You're muted.
Sorry, I had to switch to my phone. Yeah, contact pages, I'll tell you, those are a doozy. We see that problem a lot that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And what it comes down to is really your email provider being able to filter out and use the proper email controls and protection. We've been talking, Wes talked about firewalls at the network level. He talked about security at the user level. Well, email protection, that's a whole nother level of security that needs to be addressed. Your email provider should be scanning emails, should be scanning links inside of emails, should be identifying the display name looking different than the email address. Those are features that are now possible with Office 365. Nick can attest to that. I'm sure he can jump in here in a second. But contact pages and that type of email junk that gets sent to you, that's really a function of the security of the email platform.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, no, you're absolutely right. And just to kind of build off that, because I've had just a little bit of personal experience with WordPress. I know part of it is, if you really have to have a contact page, which it's your business and you'd like people to contact you, so yeah, you probably do. You have that email side, spam filters, and like you said, protections. You also have a couple different tools. I believe within WordPress there may be a couple different plugins for adding like a CAPTCHA or some kind of robot protection. But that being said, I do want to kind of give you a quick warning for WordPress plugins. They're great. They add a lot of great functionality, but personally, the fewer plugins, the better, because that can also be a way of actually having a way in for different hacking organizations to be able to compromise your website.
Yeah.
So I'd say the fewest plugins as possible. Make sure your website on the WordPress level and the plugins are all up to date all the time. And usually that's pretty good. That's a good start.
Okay. Okay.
And honestly, a lot of times, like, I'm sorry, just to jump in really, like a GoDaddy, something like that. I personally have my own like portfolio website on the side, and they do updates automatically too. And they'll email you, say, hey, your WordPress site has been updated. So they'll let you know. There's a lot of automatic controls, but I'd probably just check every so often, log into the dashboard, make sure everything's up to date.
Okay. Oh, well, I don't technically do WordPress sites anymore unless it's my own. But at the end of the day, I do social media all day, every day. And what I'm seeing, like most recently, LinkedIn just had a major breach. Well, they had two in the last what, 2-3 months. One that seemed to be kind of minor, and they downplayed it. But this one, a couple of days ago, was just announced, which was pretty kind of big, with many emails and data. When you see that headline, that the social media platform that you use heavily since the beginning, I asked who used what. Now some of you said, hey, I'm good. I use LinkedIn a lot. So you may not have heard the news that LinkedIn had a major breach. What's the next step for you as a LinkedIn or whatever platform user, because you have no control over LinkedIn, absolutely none. So what's your next step?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we talk about breaches, right? A breach is it's a reactive state, right? The damage is done. The information was leaked. The company was breached, and it's gone. Our hope is that the company is being honest enough with its users and individuals using the platform that they would tell us and those types of things. So unfortunately, when your data is leaked to the internet, it's out there.
Yeah.
It's out there. There's not going to be much an individual like me can do to go out, retrieve that data, and scrub that data from the internet. Maybe in an enterprise, Fortune 500 company that would work with hundreds of thousands of dollars with the United States government, NSA, FBI, that type of situation, they might be able to do things a little differently with different tools. But the first thing you should do in any type of situation like that is change your password.
Okay.
Change your password immediately, as quick as possible, because your password's going to be out there on the internet, and generally, not all the time, people reuse the same passwords. So a hacker is going to go to LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, WordPress, Microsoft, and they're going to try your account, and they're going to use that same password for everyone, and they're going to hope at least they get into one. So changing your password is the first thing you need to do. Now, the second thing that isn't always available, but if it is, I really, really highly suggest taking advantage of it, and that is two-factor authentication.
Okay.
Two-factor authentication is what it says. It's the second form of authentication to whatever you're trying to access. You'd have your password that you just reset. And then depending on how you configure your multi-factor authentication, you could use your thumbprint. You could use a text message sent to your phone. You could use a specific code sent to an email address. There's a number of different ways. There's physical pieces of devices you can use. There's a number of different multi-factor authentication methods, but that is going to be the second thing that you need to do in case of a breach. That will prevent greatly anything from happening again in the future, and kind of alerts you as well if someone's tampering with your account, right? Because if you have two-factor turned on and someone's trying to log into your Facebook or something, you're going to get that message that says, here's your two-factor. You're going to go, well, what the heck? I'm not logging into Facebook. Someone must be trying to do something. So it's kind of a little red flag to alert you, and say, hey, something's going on with your account. So those are the two biggest things that I would do immediately after any type of breach that you think you're in or have been reported to be a part of.
Okay.
And I would say everyone should go ahead and get used to two-factor authentication, because it is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. We're seeing it more and more every day that things are requiring it. Yep. And so if you're unfamiliar with it, go ahead and get familiar, because you're going to be in a year from now, you're not going to be able to do anything without two-factor authentication. And the other thing I would say is just be vigilant, be aware. Knowing your surroundings, knowing what's happening, changing your passwords. I think that's really some of the biggest things you can do, is just don't put your head in the sand. Just make sure that you're aware. And if you see a breach, change your passwords. We know it's a pain, but go ahead and right there, stop what you're doing and change your passwords. And if you're vigilant, then you're probably going to be okay.
I can attest with social media, because Facebook required me to get the two-factor, because somebody wanted to be me for a day on Facebook. And then I now do it for LinkedIn, but LinkedIn required that I do it to gain access to a particular feature That's the main reason I did it. But I can attest, considering how many breaches come through social media, I suspect in another 6 months to a year, all the social media platforms will probably push users to get this two-factor if you don't have it already. You can get the app on your phone, which I have that too. Um, and I it's in all honesty, it is sometimes a pain to go through all of those steps. You got to get the code, then you got to log into the email, then or it goes to your phone, then you got to put the code they sent you on your phone into the platform. But at the end of the day, it saves you from the other drama that you could be experiencing. Because are hackers, do you see more and more hackers coming through sometimes, or is the industry, it's more of an industry question. Industry wise, are you seeing more hackers using social media as an entryway into computers and things of that nature?
Nick, I'm gonna let you tag this one since I've been kind of talking away.
No, that's fine. No, it's kind of interesting because the more and more people that use social media, obviously those databases that are on the back end are more valuable. The way I kind of like to think about just the for my own personal protection, the way I personally like to start is at the base level. What of my information is already out there, just through public records like DMV or voter registration records. A lot of that stuff includes your name and address and stuff already on there. So it's like when you get even like mail in, regular mail saying, hey, I know you have this car and you got this loan and all this stuff. It's like some of that's public information. So you got that level. And then you have the level of information that you can control, like how much do you share on social media? Do you want to put all this stuff on your LinkedIn profile? And as a professional, that's totally fine, especially if you're in the public facing eye and you put on that you went to this school and you went to that. That's usually probably coinciding with the other information that's already out there anyways. But then you get to the point where people are sharing, like location, like I'm going on vacation next week, or I'm, this and that. There's a level personally that I kind of vouch for oversharing, where a lot of that data that, if it gets leaked out, then it could, it's not great in the wrong hands, I should say. But, I would say just kind of, if you can control what you can control for how much information you're putting out there, your brand, that type of stuff. A lot of the breaches that do happen, just from just going down through the breaches, a lot of it's information that will probably be breached anyways, like email address, phone numbers, um, social media, usernames, professional background, stuff like that. So, like you said, there is a level of control that you can have for how much you put out there, but then you have that, wherever you're going, LinkedIn or other online services, those other social media where they're hosting your information and they can get attacked. Yeah, using the tools that you have, like the two-factor authentication, is a lifesaver. I use it every day, and it's built into my life, so it's awesome. But um, and actually, right now, just to kind of another, not really a plug, but Microsoft Edge, our Edge browser, has this new feature where there's a credential checker. So instead of having to go out and go to these websites to find out if you've been hacked, there's actually a credential checker, I believe, in a newer build that's like, hey, you're using this email address on this website. It's been compromised. It'll actually pop up and tell you right in the browser. So there's a lot of cool tools out there now that will assist you in kind of keeping that flow of the control, that control over where your information's at and who's got a hold of information. So that's a great first step. That changing your password is, even if you got to have a password manager that you control, there's a lot of ways to do that. Even Authenticator on Android has the password um, features now, password control features. So, but yeah, I don't want to go too far into that rabbit hole, but that's just my personal perspective on that.
One last question, because Apple Pay and Google Pay are becoming kind of ubiquitous too, and because they're just convenient. But on one end, storing that information through your browser, like prime example, uh, I go to a website, I want to pay for something, and Google already has my Google Pay pops up and says, "Well, hey, we already have your little card here, so all you got to do is push this little button and we'll auto complete." That kind of
Yep.
worries me a little bit because it's just like, first and foremost, when did I do that? I probably did out of frustration because I'm like, I just want to get through to the things so I can buy what I want to buy. But at the end of the day, when you start thinking about that card is on the internet, and thus there heretofore, it is subject to be hacked, to be used by somebody in Texas or wherever in the world, and they're buying stuff that's not coming to your house. So I'm not questioning should we use Apple Pay and Google Pay, but we should be thinking about whether it's necessary in some cases to use the Apple Pay and Google Pay. That's what I'm saying, because I don't want you to say yay or nay, but but there is a risk there. That's what basically that's the PR question.
Yeah.
Is there a risk?
Well, anytime. So you actually said something that I talk about a lot, and Wes and I talk about a lot, and that's security is a balance of convenience. Exactly what you said. Lower security is going to enable you to do things very quickly, whatever that process is, and a higher security process is going to take a little more time. So there's always a balance there. Now, is your data going to be safe in Google Pay and Apple Pay? For sure. It's a very both safe platforms. Am I going to say that they're impenetrable and never have been hacked and never will be? No, because it's just at some point something will happen at some point, and it's just a matter of what, like Nick said, what is oversharing, what information are you really putting out there, because what you're doing is you're trusting this person, this company, right? And we hope that they're going to be honest and coming forth about any security issues or anything like that. So it is a trust issue. Apple Pay is good, Google Pay is good, they're both very, very safe platforms. um, when it comes to those types of things, identity theft and basic credit card kind of security stuff all comes into play there. Don't share those numbers with anyone, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
And
Well,
just to jump in really quick on the end, I'm sorry, I don't want me to interrupt you. But you're right. I mean, it's the more ways that you can be breached adds that level of complexity. But that being said, it's always great to think about that and be like, okay, what can happen here? If in worst case, what can happen? A lot of times, what's nice is they've, like Apple Pay and Google Pay, they've made these agreements with the credit card companies, like this is how we're going to exchange data. This is where the data is going to be stored. And you can't always assume that they're always going to make these agreements, but in general, on your credit card company, let's say something happens between that exchange. A lot of times, the credit card companies will have that fraud protection as well, which will then say, "Cool, something happened that was out of your control. We're going to guarantee your money." So that being said, I only learned of that because I was looking into Google Pay and I looked into all those steps. So that's the great thing. The first step is being curious about it, being concerned, and then looking into and being smart about it. And it sounds like you are. So
any last questions? Any last questions? Comments? Let me check the chat here. Did I miss anything in the chat?
I will just
I
simply
just want
say, Wes and Carson, thank you so much. I'm sitting over here. There's not a lot of presentations that I take a bunch of notes on, but I'm sitting over here. I had to grab the closest thing to me to write on as far as you guys got some great stuff. And I probably will be in I was on the envelope too, so don't feel bad. But you gave some great information. One question that I have, do you guys work a lot with nonprofits as well?
Yeah, we sure do. We sure do.
Yep.
Yeah, we do schools, nonprofits, churches, all
churches.
there's wide range.
Okay, good. I'm gonna probably be in contact with you guys.
Love to
Sure.
talk.
This was a really good time and a great discussion. I really enjoyed meeting everyone and learning and talking. So if there was ever another time that you guys want to do more questions or another topic, we would love to do that as well.
So stay tuned because we go live next month. We'll definitely have you guys come back because I'd love to have you guys live and in person to chat with small business owners. And like I told Wes earlier on, a lot of people are zoomed out. So, everybody's ready to get back to face. And I think we'll have a great turnout bringing you guys back face to face sometime in the future.
That sounds awesome.
Absolutely love it.
Okay. Well, if all hearts and minds are clear.
It's a church girl for you.
We've scared everybody to death.
Why are you telling everybody my business? See? Okay, so if all hearts and minds are clear, everything, no last questions, get them in right now before we shut it down and do the benediction.
Nick, thanks for your input as well, Nick. Definitely, and you and I will be in contact real soon.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here.
Okay.
Right. Thanks, everybody, very much.
Happy Thursday. And for those of you that are going to celebrate the 4th this weekend, have a safe, first and foremost, holiday. We will see you in July, live and in person.
August. We're in July already.
That's right. Well, technically, you know what I meant. In August,
I know what you're saying.
Since we're already in July, I was like, well, next month we will be live and in person at Venture X, right?
Venture X and RTP right across from the Frontier.
Right across from Frontier, but not in the same building, but right
Not the same buildings, right next. If you haven't been to the Box Yard yet, I highly recommend going to the Box Yard. It's right over there.
Okay. So that's
Nick, could you drop your email address in the chat, please?
Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you.
So that's where we will be in August. That's August 5th, I do believe. Let me check because I get dates messed up, as Ed will attest. So that is August 5th. Yes, August 5th is our first in-person since the COVID meeting. So mark your calendars, get your collared shirts or non-collared, just come as you typically would, whatever. Just come comfortable. And we will see you then. This has been recorded, so I don't know what the process. I know what the process is, but I don't know how long it will be ready. If you want to share this for those of you that haven't been scared off Facebook officially today, if you want to share it,
if you want a copy of it, it'll download to me. If you want a copy of the video, let me know, and I'll shoot it out to you guys.
Yeah. Eventually it will reach social. So that's it. Thank you, everybody. Have a great
take care.
Weekend.
Enjoy your weekends.
Yes. Please be safe.
Thanks.
I say that selfishly so you can come to the meeting in July. In August.
August.
Yeah, August. Bye-bye.
Take care.